Hello and welcome to this video with the lovely Liz Nagle. We're going to be talking today about it is better to be kind than it is to be right. So hi Liz, welcome.
Thanks, Deborah. It's great to be back. Thank you.
Okay, if you want to know more about Liz and you haven't come across her before, there's a link in the description and you can check out our previous videos where I've interviewed her and she's talked more at length about who she is, where she is, what she does, and etc., etc. Okay, so Liz, we have decided on this topic. Well, I decided on this topic. And the reason I decided on it was because it came up in one of the messages, the weekly messages, that it's better to be kind than it is to be right. And perhaps that might have struck a chord with me, I don't know. There might have been some resistance there. So as the soul realignment, soul profile, 56% divine truth, that's mine, we can tend to be a little bit righteous sometimes. So that might have been why, whereas Liz is dominant in divine compassion, where I think you find it much easier to find that kindness. So I think that's why it came to me as a good one to talk about today. It is better to be kind than it is to be right. Okay, what's your first thoughts about that?
Well, when you said it to me, it didn't quite sit with me somehow. There was something smug about it. There's something smug about, well, you know I'm right, but I'll be kind and not tell you where you're going wrong. You know, there's an arrogance there. And there's this, idea that I'm right and you're wrong. And so, yeah, I think it's more, I actually think it's more about, I have my opinions, but I'll keep them to myself, or I might share them, but I'll only share them from the point of view that, it's only my opinion. It's my opinion, but it's only my opinion. And you, I'm sure, have your opinions that are equally valid and equally right. So maybe I'll zip it or maybe I'll share it, but it's not coming from a place of superiority. And this is me talking from the perspective of, with the perspective of hindsight, with the benefit of hindsight, because I was so opinionated and I never stopped sharing my opinions, and my opinions were right. I was definitely right and you were definitely wrong. And I still have heaps of opinions, except now I'm kind of a little bit more humble and realize they're only my opinions, and I'm very often wrong and eek. So that's it.
But
What
that's
do you
really
think?
no, I think that's really interesting. First of all, because you said keeping your thoughts to yourself, you said opinions to yourself, and the reason that resonated was because I think in the card reading that I'm referring to, where it came up, it was the Seven of Swords, and which is normally somebody kind of stealing your thoughts, or it could be like deceitful, and sometimes I interpret it as you lying to yourself, usually about not being good enough and stuff like that. So I have a number of interpretations for the Seven of Swords, but it was in this particular video that I'm thinking of, and if I can remember which one it is, I will put a link in the description, but at the moment I can't remember which one it was. But for some reason he's standing there carrying all these swords and taking them away, and swords to me are thoughts, and it just came out my mouth like, keep your thoughts to yourself. And I'd never interpreted the card that way before. And it kind of shook me at the time, because there I was on camera spouting my thoughts. And it was just a funny occurrence, because as I've always said, the messages that come through are for me. And I like to share them with others. So it was a message for me to be kind rather than to be right. And when I was arguing with myself about that, if I can word it like that, I was like, yes, but the truth will set you free, and it's like, that was me kind of thinking the truth will set you free, and people need to know the truth because it will set them free. And I think there's a lot of people that embody that kind of feeling, that kind of notion. The truth will set you free. But then again, we know that truth is subjective, and
there is only you, or there is only me. So my truth and me being honest with myself is what will set me free.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with setting other people free, or my truths, being the truth that will set everybody free. It's not my job to set everybody free. It's our job to set ourselves free.
Yes. And letting go of that feeling that you need to do anything for anyone else is part of finding that freedom, isn't it?
Not anything for anybody else, obviously, because everybody else is a reflection of ourselves. And, so yeah, it's difficult to explain that difference between who are other people and who am I. And that fine line between total narcissistic selfishness and being aware that there is only me, and that I have 100% responsibility for making the best of me. Does that make sense?
Well, yes, because I know there is no one else fit, but if you compare that to narcissism, that's not caring about other people. Whereas we know that there is only us, but to behave in a manner that is kind. That's what we're coming back to. Kindness to those reflections of us.
Yes, which is basically kindness to ourselves. So by, it's a kindness to myself to realize that my thoughts and my truth is only my truth. It's only true for me. No, that's not, and that reflects out onto everybody in my energy field. But I'm being kind to myself by not being insistent that my truth is the only truth, because I'm freeing myself up to see other perspectives and to see other truths.
Yes, and I think this links in with a video I did in the Lessons in Awakening about understanding thoughts and beliefs, yours and other people's, and not that there are other people, but you know what I mean. And I'll put a link in that as well, because this is why truth is so subjective, because we create our own truth with the thoughts that we choose to believe. So if I choose to believe something, I make that true for me. And then somebody else chooses to believe another thought, and they will make that thought true for them. So that's how truth is subjective. So, and also I think truth is dependent on it's multi-dimensional, isn't it? Because like, if you come into like a 3D, you could argue, this is a blue pen and this is a red pen, and there's some truth in that. So I think there is this kind of, what's true in the third dimensional reality might be a little less arguable, if that makes sense, because we're talking more about perceptions, aren't we, and opinions, non-physical. We're talking about non-physical things, aren't we? Have I just confused myself?
Yes. No, but I think it's getting quite deep, because we could go into you know, your perception of what's blue and what's red, and my perception of what's blue and what's red, and we'll never know if we're actually looking at the same colors, because my brain is processing the information one way and your brain is processing the information another. And then if you're colorblind, you can't see red anyway, and it might be just look green or yellow or something else. So even the red pen and the blue pen is subjective.
Yeah.
Everything is subjective.
Yeah. But when we use this phrase most, we are referring to thoughts, aren't we? And opinions, like we said in the beginning.
Yes.
And so in the video about understanding thoughts and opinions, as you evolve or as you expand into higher levels of consciousness, your thoughts and opinions and your perceptions change. And on the map of consciousness, the complete one that I can't share for copyright reasons, there is a column that is your life view. So people's view of life changes. So their opinions about life, their thoughts about life, the truths they have created about life change as they expand into higher levels of consciousness. And there's also a column on God. We talked about this in the last video, didn't we? Because the view of God also changes depending on the level of consciousness, or their truth, the truth for them about God, or the meaning and what have you. And of course, that's when I said that I want to put a column on for love. We talked about the different definitions of love changing as you expand into higher levels of consciousness. So truth is relative, obviously, depending on the filters that you're using and the experiences that you've had, you know,
and your level of consciousness, or your whatever frequency you're vibrating at. Yeah.
So exactly. So if you try and argue with people, if we resonate with our opinions, that the opinions that we have are resonating at our level, right? So therefore, you know, if we argue with somebody, we're not going to be able to change their opinion. But what we will do is make them angry and frustrated, and possibly make ourselves angry and frustrated in the process. And one thing that that I came away with this, this is a big one for me personally, that's why I want to share it. It's that people won't remember the words that you've said because they may not resonate with them, but people will always remember how you made them feel. And I say to myself, how am I, when I leave an interaction, whether it be a brief interaction or a longer friendship or a colleague or whatever, you know, when I leave someone, it's like, how has my interaction with them left them feeling? You could argue that that's up to them how they choose to feel, right?
Well, it is. And okay, so there's a couple of things there. First of all, it depends on how you voice your opinion. You know, your intention. Is your intention to tell them you're right, you know, you're wrong and I'm right? Or you've got it wrong and this is how you should see it, you know? Is that your intention? Because if it is, that's what will make them angry, you know? Or if you're coming from I'm sharing my truth, I'm sharing what I'm vibrating with, you know, at the moment, and it might change. It probably will change. Everything changes. If you're just sharing it from there, then they're more likely to at least hear it, you know.
But it could still trigger them.
It could still trigger them, but there's nothing wrong. Did we say this in the last video? There's nothing wrong with triggering people. There is nothing wrong about people feeling offended, so long as you don't set out to offend them.
Yeah, because it's them.
Mostly.
Understanding triggers, another important video.
Yes, exactly. You know, it is, being offended has become, you know, a no-go area you're not allowed to offend anybody. This political correct wokeness is just, taking away the opportunities for people to see where their wounds are, to see where they've got issues that they need to heal. And so, like even talking about God, we were talking about this earlier, but, and it's happened here at the house, some people get, like myself included, years ago, when if you mentioned the word God, the hairs went up on the back of my neck. It was like it just did not resonate with me. Whereas now I have a totally different understanding of what God is, and so. But it's still my understanding versus, and your understanding of what God is different. Everybody has a personal relationship with God, that word.
Or their own
or
definition.
source,
Yeah.
or their own definition of what that is, and lots of people, and myself included, couldn't say the word God for years, and used source or universal energy or, something else. And it's only very recently that I'm very comfortable using the word God.
Me too.
To describe that. So, but it's that's okay that if people hear us saying the word God and want to switch off, I'm saying don't switch off. Actually, just deal with that feeling. Why is that feeling coming up in you? What resistance is there? Where's that coming from? What would you be more comfortable using in instead? Just, when did you first feel that resistance, and why? And can you heal that? Can you forgive that?
I think this is amazing, because it's actually what we're doing is we're turning this around, because we understand the value of being triggered as a self-healing mechanism, or a self-healing journey, and looking into those emotions, understanding that if we are triggered, that emotion is within us. We need to take responsibility for that, and that the person that we're perceiving as having triggered us has actually just reflected that back to us. So we actually want to look at them with love and gratitude. So that's all part of the understanding triggers. But as far as it is better to be kind than it is to be right, I mean, actually, we've gone the other way. It's like, no, it's better to trigger people than make them feel good.
Well, yeah, but again, it goes back to not setting out to trigger people, because sometimes we if we trigger somebody and they react, then we get triggered in return, in defense, and that's good for us too. So sometimes we just have to feel stuff, and say stuff. So, and sometimes we can share an opinion and it'll plant a seed. They mightn't get it there and then, but maybe it'll just open up people to another perspective, or at least the perspective that there are other perspectives. I feel like I'm repeating myself.
No, but I think that's really valuable. I mean, but then there's still an element of, I want to wake them up to my way of thinking.
That's your ego. That's just pure ego.
Well, that's what I just heard with that, because planting seeds is what it's all about, right? And we know from our own awakenings, and we've done a video on that, haven't we? That it's like dropping seeds and then joining dots. That's why we talk about joining dots, and then suddenly you've joined the final dot and you have that aha moment. And your triggers could be some of those dots. So, but equally, people being kind to you could also be some of those dots. Maybe I don't know which way I'm going with this.
I don't know, but being kind isn't. I guess my point was that it's always better to be kind, but there's no rather than after.
But if you can be kind and right.
but you're only right for you.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I
just
do like,
kind, just be kind. And it doesn't matter it doesn't matter if you say something or you don't say something, or you share your thoughts or you don't share your thoughts, as long as you're kind when you share them.
and yeah, and I want to say something here. It's actually because it's better to be kind, right? We're talking about
Full
to other
stop.
people, but actually we're talking about kindness to yourself. And I think a lot of people will be able to relate to this, because often I'm trying to give it up. I think it's a bad habit now, but sharing things, sharing information with people that I love. Right now, I think a lot of, if anyone's watching this video, I think there will be people that understand what I'm saying. And and it came up in that the messages that I've been referring to, where this guidance came in, that, you know, sharing generally is fine because the right people will resonate and will find it. But sharing individually with someone who clearly doesn't resonate with what you're sending them is going to make them feel really uncomfortable. And then if they don't take it on board and they reject it, that might make you feel really uncomfortable. Plus the fact that I've noticed that when I feel the desire to do that, to share information with an individual, even though my human is telling me I'm doing it out of love for them, I still feel a drop in frequency. I straight away feel a drop in frequency, and it's almost like my higher self is saying, nah, you know, and my human is going, oh, but I, you know, so it's an interesting one, because so this being kind is not just being kind to the other person, because if they don't resonate with it, they're going to feel uncomfortable. So why do we want to do that to them? But I'm talking about being kind to yourself. This is what I'm noticing. I'm saying, my higher self is saying to me, be kind to yourself, Deborah, and don't send stuff that's going to make you feel uncomfortable, that you've done something that's lowered your own frequency.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Yeah, I mean, I rarely share things anymore, but I did, and
a bad habit,
got slapped for it. And yeah, it is a bad habit. And even still, I sometimes watch something and I think, oh God, I wonder if I should share this. And no, it's a bad idea. Don't do it. Don't do it. So I rarely do now, rarely. But yeah, it's a really tempting thing to do. But I guess what I tell myself now is, okay, so what is it I need to hear in this message? What is it that either I'm resonating with in this message that I feel is so important? And is it really that important that I share it, you know? And it never is. It's more important to share something that's going to be uplifting rather than share something that's going to, you know, shake somebody's confidence or bring fear into their field. Or yeah, there's a lot of fear. It's my fear, you know. Why would I be sharing my fear?
As well. There's going to be rejection as well.
There's that, but I mean, obviously, if I'm sharing, if I'm sharing something beautiful, then there's no problem. But even so, why am I sharing it? It's only for me. So there is only me. Who am I sharing it with?
But it's a bit like, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, but if I'm sharing something that, you know, that I think, oh, people need to know this because, you know, they need a heads up, or they could be in danger or whatever, that's just my fear, you know. And why would I share my fear? Really, I have done it, and
I think that's a really,
it always lowers my vibration. Yeah, lowers my frequency straight away. I feel the drop straight away, like you said.
Exactly. And what we're doing is actually sharing our own fear.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it just,
yeah,
I need to remember that, and I do remember that now, and I don't don't share it. But
yeah,
but it's
but
even trying to, it's being kind to myself then, by not judging myself for feeling the fear, you know, and actually trying to heal that fear. Yeah, and release that fear. It's my trigger. Do you know, the fact that I want to forward it to somebody that I think needs to be warned is a trigger for me to see that I'm feeling fear around an issue and I
yes,
need to
because
heal.
there is no one else.
No. Thank you for reminding me of that.
So why do you want to share it with somebody else? But as I said before, it's usually because it's our loved ones. And so yeah, but it brings me back to something that I often refer to again with that chart, and Dr. David Hawkins mentions in his book Power versus Force, that if we can raise our frequency, we are in effect raising the frequency of the collective by raising our own, which is why it's so important to raise our frequency. And so the phrase that I said, you know, how do you leave someone feeling, you know,
Yeah.
if you can make someone feel good, not by humoring them or lying to them or anything like that, obviously completely the opposite, but just make them feel good. And this has come up quite a lot. It's just that gratitude, that appreciation, that humor, so many ways that we can, a smile, an act of kindness. There are so many ways that we can make somebody feel good. Don't overdo it, because that will make them feel uncomfortable. I'm just saying that from personal experience. When a complete stranger comes in and starts smiling away, you know. But yeah, so that, because what you're doing from an energy perspective is you're literally raising the consciousness level of humanity, by keeping your own frequency as high as possible, and then doing whatever you can to raise the frequency of others.
Well, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to bring it back to me again. So there's me and my 50 trillion cells, or whatever number of cells there are. And that's, to me, that's the collective consciousness, okay? Me and my 50 trillion cells. And so I have to, my job, my responsibility is to lift the vibration of every cell in my body. That's my only job, because there is only me. I am the universe. And when I've lifted every cell in my body to that magical kind of love and above frequency, then I'm walking around like a beacon of love. And everything and everyone I see, all I see is love. And when I see everyone as love, then they are lifted to that frequency.
Regardless of whether you talk to them or not, regardless of whether you interact with them or not.
Yeah, don't even need to smile at them. They don't even need to see me. I just see them, and I see them as their divine, perfect, yeah, in their divine perfectness. And when I do that, I lift them, you know, and it's the same with a plant or an animal or the world or a news feature or, you know, a globalist or a conspiracy theory or a news headline, whatever. If I can see it and love it just as it is, without trying to fix it, without trying to change it. Just see it for what it is, you know, at the level that it's at, and know that it doesn't matter. It's not my job to change it. It's just my job to love it, really. Not always easy.
Yeah, so it's bringing it back to loving what is.
Loving what is.
Which
yeah.
we have done a video on, loving what is. And it came up in yesterday's cards as well. The messages, it's funny how we always come back, isn't it, to loving what is.
Because that's all there is what is. That's all there is. So that's why we can start talking about any subject and we're always going to come back to this. There is only me, and I have to love what is, you know?
There is only love.
There is only love.
You, because there is only you. You are divine love. There is only love.
Yeah. So we don't need to do any more videos. That's it. We've covered everything. We just have to go about living it. Yeah, going about living it. And so Paul Selig, in the book The Word, he sets, not he, but the council, no, the guides.
The guides.
The guides he uses. He channels the guides. They say, you know, one of the exercises to do is to go out to, you know, your coffee shop, your class, the library, wherever, and practice loving everything that is, loving what is, loving everyone, seeing the divinity in everybody, where they're at, the drunk, the, you know, the old grouchy man, the, you know, everything and everyone, the growling dog. See the divinity in it and love it. Doesn't mean you go over and pet the, you know, the growling dog. It doesn't mean you have to go and talk to them or sit beside them or give them a hug or anything. You just feel it. Send them your love. Send them, not even send it. It's just love it.
Honoring them.
Love it.
Honoring them.
Honor it. Yeah, yeah. And practice that. It's a practice, you know, because it's not easy. We've been programmed and trained and have very bad habits of judging ourselves and others. And so it's just practicing seeing the divinity in everything.
And we have bad habits in wanting to be right.
Yeah, we do.
Well, that's ego.
Terrible. That's just ego, but ego has to be right, because with that, if it's not right, it's dead, you know, you know, or it's at risk of death. So that's ego's job, is to try and be right all the time. So right.
Here's a question for you. What advice would you give to somebody who argues that they're sharing information for the benefit of the person that they're sharing it with, because it's information that that person needs to know in order to make beneficial decisions in life, or more healthy decisions in life, or even life-saving decisions in life? And they're coming from a place of love. They're coming from a place of love, and there is a fear there, obviously, as well. But then again, if there was a building falling down on top of you, I would shout out to you and get you out the way.
Yeah.
So what if somebody was sharing information from that driven?
From one point of view, it's like, well, have you been asked? Did they ask you? You know?
Well, they probably might not see the house falling down on them.
No, in a situation like that, you just you follow your instinct. You know, your instinct is to shout or pull or push or, you know, whatever. You just act on your instinct. You don't stand back and think, I wonder, should I? you know, do they want, you just act. So that doesn't, you know,
I think there's a lot of people, I do think there's a lot of people that might see present situations in a similar vein.
And I think that those, yeah, I think those, you know, people who are acting out of their instinct, or, you know, from that place of intuition, then that's what they're meant to do. I'm not, you know, there is no one rule for all.
Right or
Some
wrong.
people are meant to be out there protesting and, you know, shouting their truth from the rooftops. If that feels that's what they're guided to do.
If it feels good for them, if it leaves them feeling good.
Feeling good, exactly, and not the drop in the frequency. It depends on whether it makes you feel expansive or contracted. And so, yeah, there is no one rule for all.
And that's a perfect point, isn't it? I mean, and obviously one that I like, because I'm always talking about expansion and contraction. But yes, if you can express your truth, and you can, in whichever way, whether it be sharing information or saying whatever to whoever, whilst maintaining your frequency at its highest level, then obviously that's something that you need to do then, because that's what we want to do. We want to maintain our frequency in the highest level at all times. So if it does that and you're not aware of any drop, so for those that feel like that, okay, that's interesting.
And the other thing is that, you know, is this idea of, and I've been playing with this the last few days myself, is like, okay, so we have this idea that we need to raise the collective consciousness to the frequency of love and above. So how do I do that? Well, first of all, I have to get myself into alignment and resonance with love and above. That's the first thing I have to do. And after that, then I just set the intention. You know, I'm actually going to, I'm working with this idea that we do like a heart coherence meditation, so that we're entraining our hearts with a group, with, you know, with other people. And when we've got that heart coherence going, then we set the intention to raise the consciousness, the collective consciousness, to the highest level possible at the moment. And just set that intention. That's the way I will do it.
Because that's how because it keeps your frequency high.
My frequency high, and that's what makes me feel expanded. Whereas the thought of actually, you know, going out and you know, pounding the pavements, telling people what to do, just makes me contracted. Yeah.
And that's probably also dependent on our own perceptions and our own level of consciousness and our own view of things and our own experiences, etc.
And I guess it also depends on what the thing is. You know, that's not to say that I won't be out there, you know, telling people what I think about something else, you know. But at the moment, that, you know, I'm doing it energetically. I'm doing the work internally and spreading it out from there. You know, working the opposite way can be just as effective, maybe, for other people.
And it does boil down to frequency. And the other thing is, after that, when this came up in the video, like I said in the beginning, it's better to be kind than it is to be right. You know, I kind of left that experience of doing that card reading, kind of thinking, well, okay, this is why I love doing my YouTube channel, because of course I can just follow my inspiration, because that's also an important point. We need to follow our inspiration and our passion. And clearly I love doing it. So I need to keep doing it to keep my frequency. It's only me, right? So to keep my frequency high, and to bring the messages for me, right? And then, as we said before, you know, I'm not sending them to individuals, but I do share them, but then the right people will come at the right kind of time. But I left that quite a little bit confused, because I remember I was talking to you about it, because I was thinking, for the first time in my life, I was like, oh my goodness, I have got to keep my opinions to myself. Very difficult. My second dominant energy center is the fifth one. We're very opinionated. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to keep my opinions to myself. And so I tried to do that. I tried to practice that, because then also that does go against a little bit of, like I said, my soul profile. So it's like, we need some of us, those of you that are dominant in fifth, will need a channel whereby you can express your opinions in a high frequency, well received way, because I think that is part and parcel of who we are, divine self-expression. So, and of course everybody needs to embody their own divine self-expression, so it is important to do it, especially if you're inspired, because following your divine inspiration is everything. So then it's like, how is it done though? So I remember saying to you, I wanted to say something, and I was saying, you were talking about something, and I said to you, ask me what I think. I'm trying to give up offering my opinion without it being wanted. So can you please just ask me? And I think that's my line now at the moment. I'll be talking to people, I'm just go, ask me what I think, just so that I can share it.
I think most people actually ask the questions that they want to be asked. Do you know? They want to be asked back the question. And I'm very bad at that. I just answer the question and I don't ask back. I think I have an assumption that whoever has asked me the question will tell me what they think, if they have an opinion.
Well, especially if it's me.
Especially if it's you. Yes, I certainly never thought you'd say, ask me. You know, wait to be asked. But also I think it's important to not feel that we have to zip, you know, that we're not allowed to express ourselves, even if that opinion or thought or expression is wrong, you know. That we should be free to express what we feel inspired to express. That doesn't mean that you go out to hurt people or say nasty things or, you know, just try and start an argument. It's just, if you have something and you're bursting to share it, then share it. And even if it's come from the wrong place, you'll learn from that, because you'll get the backlash, you know. And if you do trigger somebody, they'll learn from it also. And there is no other. Yeah, there is just you. So, you know, you can't really make a mistake. Everything is exactly as it is meant to be. So you'll either say it or you won't, and you'll live with the karma or the consequences of that.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because it just made me think of something else that came up recently in the messages, which is about, and this is from a video that I have shared before with Kyle Cease and JP Sears. And I really like that, because JP Sears was saying that we're actually, there's parts of us, or some people, whatever, the concept that we're actually censoring ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to upset people, we don't want to offend people, we don't want to get censored on social media. So we actually start censoring ourselves.
And that not wanting to upset people is manipulation. we're trying to get to be liked. We're trying to manipulate people into thinking we're the same as them, or we're likable, or we're very nice. We want to seem the same. So, so that we won't get kicked out of the village or whatever and starve, or, be social pariahs or whatever. Yeah, outcasted. So, it is manipulation. Being nice is being manipulative. So it's not very nice.
Yeah. And it brings it back to authenticity. Just be yourself. Just be yourself. Whether that's kind, true, nice,
nasty,
triggering. You're not going to be intentionally nasty, because it's all reflection of yourself, right?
No, but some people might be, because that's the frequency that they're at.
And they're learning.
Yes.
Yes,
and they have
because they'll get a wake-up call by the response or the karma. So we didn't need to do this video, really, did we? Because we could just say, just be yourself.
Yeah. But if you are yourself, you'll be your true design loving self. So,
or be your true soul essence, which is divine love.
Yeah. But you can only be that if you're resonating at that frequency. And there is there has been this pattern of structure of having to go through the steps to get there.
Yeah, and what I love about this, Liz, is that we've just done a full circle. We've done that before, haven't we? We've done that before. So we've talked for an hour and done a full circle. So this is great. I absolutely love it. Oh, because it was also something that came up. I don't know whether it's relevant or not, but it's just something that struck me. I was talking about how you would talk to a 4-year-old that believed in fairies. And you wouldn't tell a 4-year-old that it's not true, fairies don't exist. You wouldn't tell a 4-year-old that they were silly to believe in fairies. You would love a 4-year-old exactly where they're at. And you'd actually love them even more because they believed in fairies. And as I was saying this is through a message, as I was saying that, I suddenly thought, fairies do exist. And I believe in fairies. I was like, oh my God, that 4-year-old is right. So that point I thought was really relevant. It might be a good one to end on, is that we're judging other people for having opinions that are different to ours, but maybe, is there any chance that their opinion is right? It's obviously right for them. So, oh my goodness, I just so love these chats with you, Liz. I'm going to have to watch it back to really actually absorb what's been said and whatever. So, oh, brilliant. Is there anything you want to share before we say goodbye?
No, I think we've said it all, really. We'll keep the rest for the next video where we talk ourselves out of something.
And go round in circles as well. I would love to hear from anyone watching, if in the comments below, to hear what they think and any comments they have to make about it. So I'm going to stop the recording now. So we will say lots of love to everybody. Love you all. And see you in the next video. Bye for now.